This man has got to be one of the strongest active UFC fighters. I have never seen anything like this. His name is Andreas Gustafsson, he's a former Greco-Roman wrestler from Sweden and he recently won his UFC debut against Chaos Williams. First up we have an 80 kg one-armed barbell snatch. Now, as a former competitive weightlifter, I cannot stress how incredibly impressive this is. Trust me, this is very difficult to do. To put this into context, Dmitry Klokov, who is a world champion weightlifter, he did 101 kilograms. And then we have this guy being an MMA fighter, competing in the welterweight, he is not that far from it. Here we have a 3 repetition deadlift for 250 kilograms. And I am telling you this from experience, these Greco-Roman wrestlers, they are specimens. I have worked with them before, and I have had athletes who have never even touched a barbell in their life just pulling ridiculous numbers from the ground. And on a general basis, I would argue that Greco-Roman wrestlers, they are stronger than their freestyle counterparts. And this is no secret of course, because you have limited possibilities of maneuvers to do and there is a greater deal of high amplitude throws. And here we have a heavy single for 280 kilograms, which is close to 620 pounds. And this guy is essentially the reincarnation of a Viking berserker. He is not afraid of getting into deep waters, he will slug it out with anyone, and there is just something very terrifying about a forward moving force like this that doesn't stop. It really does put a test to your character. And arguably you could be the most technical fighter in the world, but if you cannot match such a forward moving force that refuses to be put down, you will be in deep trouble. And Greco-Roman wrestling is historically a very honorable sport in Sweden. It's not as popular as it was before, but it does make a specimen out of you, both psychologically and physically. And it is an incredibly, almost criminally underrated base to have in MMA. We tend to be very freestyle-centric in MMA due to double leg attacks and leg grabs, but perhaps more often than not, you end up in clinching scenarios with your upper body, especially when you're against the cage. And even fighters like Daniel Cormier and John Jones, their original base was actually in Greco-Roman wrestling, not freestyle, and early on in their fighting careers we could see a huge implementation of Greco-Roman techniques. And here are the Olympic weightlifting variations. He's doing power cleans, he's doing power jerks, and there is just something very special about seeing athletes performing these Olympic lifts, moving heavy weights in a fast manner. No matter how you perform these lifts on a technical basis, there is one thing they do a tremendously good job of doing, and that is forcing you to recruit a lot of motor units, because by definition, you have to produce enough height with the bar to go under it and absorb it. And this is an extremely underrated advantage with this category of exercises, and they are just so aesthetically pleasing. There is just this vintage connotation to seeing an athlete performing a power clean. And above all, they are extremely fun. I very rarely come across an athlete that thinks Olympic weightlifting is boring. Performing a training intervention because you want to rather than having to is a big advantage. And then we have the king of pulling exercises, an almost mandatory addition to a combat sports athlete's strength training intervention, the pull-ups. And in this video he's performing 43 repetitions, and I assume his body weight is somewhere around 90 kilograms at this time. And this is absolutely ridiculous. And this is another thing that I have observed with wrestlers, especially Greco-Roman ones, is that they can do a ridiculous amount of pull-ups and they have tremendous back strength. And to really put this number of pull-ups into perspective, they did a study of a 4-time Greco-Roman world champion weighing 61 kilos at the time, and he could do 50 pull-ups. This is definitely a world-class number, nobody cares about the leg swings, please save it, and just observe the athletic expression here. And if you are a combat sports athlete, you should definitely implement pull-ups in your program. And then we have the Zercher squat, and I absolutely love Zercher variations. They are a very legitimate variation to use aside from back squats, aside from front squats. Sadly, with popular media where everyone is arguably a professor, there has been a lot of fear-mongering going on that they are supposedly more dangerous than other squatting variations, but these have been implemented since the time of the USSR. So I'm not gonna give this danger debate more attention than it deserves. All I can say is this: amazing exercise for grappling, for wrestling, for combat sports. use it in variation with other squatting variations, including the back squat, the front squat, the box squat. Variation and load management, that is key. And there is no convincing formula that can decide this for you. There is no convincing scientific model as of now. For the most part, it is an intuition. And the psychological components are also very pronounced. You get bored of repetitive training interventions. Sometimes you have to make things exciting, switch things up. And here we have the dips, 3 repetitions of 75 kilograms, external weight that is, in addition to his body weight. And I absolutely love the dips, especially for combat sports athletes, grapplers. It is such a nonsense-free exercise, very convenient. It is essentially the pressing equivalent of a pull-up, both in terms of practicality and efficiency. And for some of my athletes, especially when time is a factor, I use it in place of the bench press. It is just such a convenient and straightforward exercise. And then we have some old school, primitive, zero nonsense training, lifting logs, lifting stones, a natural breeze on your face, sun shining, birds singing. In this hyper-connected, urban, office-ridden society of ours, what you need more of is nature. This is what you were built for all along, and it is such an enjoyable experience to exert yourself physically in a natural environment. And this is the most sport-specific thing you will do. Why? Because it makes you feel good. And if you feel good, you will perform good. You definitely need some supplementary outdoors training. Don't overthink things with a bunch of sport-specific BS all the time. You don't need to follow a specific rep scheme all the time or a specific time limit. Just stop overthinking every once in a while, go out, lift some wooden logs, throw some stones, sprint up a mountain, turn off this so-called rational thinking agent that is constantly instructing you in your mind and just go primitive mode. Every once in a while, just do it. I guarantee you will enjoy it.